Hey guys, welcome to my R8 RWS review. I know I'm a bit late to the party with this particular car, and most people have already reviewed it, and in fact this Audi UK car is going straight into retirement after I hand it back in a couple of days time. I've recently handed back the R8 V10 Plus, which is the flagship R8, and was lucky enough to then jump into this. So my back-to-back comparison is really fair because I've still got the R8 V10 Plus in my mind up here and I remember everything about it. So it's a really good comparison. I don't know how many people have had that opportunity, have been privileged enough to have those two cars pretty much back to back. I remember watching early reviews of this car at the beginning of the year when it was very cold, and in fact Henry Catchpole had this particular car out on a circuit and it was snowing the day they decided to do the review. So I remember him saying at the time, isn't that ironic that I finally get my hands on an Audi rear-wheel drive sports car and it decides to snow on me. Well, fast forward 7 or 8 months and it's 2.5 degrees outside, it's wet, and these roads are very muddy and greasy. They're fantastic roads, but when it does rain around here, all the mud from the fields and stuff just runs across the road, so it's extremely greasy, and I wouldn't say ideal for an RWS, but I still think it's an incredible bit of kit. Now the RWS is the entry-level R8. It comes in at £112,000 on the road. That's about £30,000 less than the R8 V10 Plus that I had recently, but you do lose a few standard options that you get on the top of the line model. This car being a press car, it's fully loaded. It's actually got £20,000 worth of options on there, many of which you really don't need. The Nagaro blue paintwork's beautiful, but £3.5 grand. I would stick with the Arrow blue crystal, which is standard. And other things like the 20-inch wheels, not for the UK, they look great, but they just, without that little bit of tyre cushioning, you lose ride and you also lose performance on these sort of roads, you really do. So yeah, trade off the ultra low profile tyres and looks for a better ride and better handling. Still get the fantastic 5.2 litre V10, but in this particular guise it's pushing out 540 PS as opposed to 610 PS, so 70 brake horsepower down, but this car's lighter. They quote that it's 50 kilos lighter. To me it feels a lot more than that. So I'm not feeling any lack of performance due to the lack of weight, and also this car just feels so much more nimble. Obviously the front wheels are only doing the steering and not the drive, so when you turn it into a corner like this, it's just lovely. There's loads of feel, well, loads more than there are in the R8 V10 Plus or the Quattro model, and the whole car just feels so much lighter and more agile. It just feels great. And on a day like today, on these greasy roads, I don't have any issues putting all the power down. Okay, out of slower first and second gear corners, yes, the Quattro car would be faster exiting the corner, but it's so well driven. Like the rear wheels, they're massive on this, and it has the same sort of drive out of corners as a typical 911. A lot of that's probably to do with the fact that although it's mid-engined, it's more rear mid-engine. You know, the engine's right behind me and kind of almost sits over the rear wheels, so you've got plenty of drive there and plenty of weight over the back end. Oh, it's just fantastic. It really feels so much better to me. Not so much better, but it feels better than the Quattro version, which is probably not what Audi want me to say, but I really think it does. I love it. I love the fact that you can feel the rear end moving around a bit under throttle. Now I haven't got big enough balls or skill to turn everything off in this car like I did. I usually had most of the traction aids off in the R8 V10 Plus, but in this particular car I've got it just on the halfway house, so it allows a bit of slip. Being a mid-engine car, they do tend to rotate quite quickly, and yeah, I don't fancy skidding this one off into a hedge whilst I've got it, especially on a day like today. But it's not too intrusive, the traction control, and as I say, you've got so much grip that you very rarely even see the light flashing anywhere. It's unbelievable what it does. You know, 2 degrees, wet outside, amazing, really, really impressive. There's a couple of options that this particular car has got that I would stick with, and one of them being the sports exhaust. Definitely got to tick that box. I think it's £1,800, but one of the main benefits and the main attractions to this car is that 5.2 litre V10, and you want to be able to hear that, and with the sports exhaust you can open it right up like it is now, so you can really hear it, and you get some amazing cracks and pops on the overrun. Or you can shut it right down, you can put it into comfort and it closes the valves like we'll do now. We'll go past this guy, make him a bit happier, there we go. Deadly quiet, no sound at all. But yeah, we're not here to do that, so let's put it back into dynamic. The other option that I would scrap that this car's got is the 20-inch wheels, get rid of them, stick with the standard wheels. And something else that this car doesn't have that I would go for is the magnetic ride, or adaptive suspension as we know it. In the UK it's so important, you want a softer setup. It's not too bad, this passive setup, it's actually not too bad at all when you're pushing on, a bit like with M cars, but at slower speeds it does feel overly sprung and a bit too uncomfortable for longer journeys, so I'll definitely get that. And you know, over many things that this car has got option wise, in terms of the way it feels, it's just brilliant. It's so agile, it feels really good. It feels on these tight, twisty B roads, it feels like a TTRS almost, and that's a big compliment because that car is just fantastic. Somehow it just feels smaller than the R8 V10 Plus, which makes no sense because it's the same platform, it's exactly the same size. And again, the brakes, this one's got the steel brakes. Comes standard with the steel brakes. The R8 V10 Plus comes with those awesome carbon ceramics, but I have to say the steels feel every bit as good for road driving, and in fact they're always consistent, whereas the carbon ceramics are really good sometimes and not so great other times, and take a bit of time to get used to when you're in drizzly wet days like today. Massive standout feature for me on this car is the miles per gallon it produces compared to the R8 V10 Plus that I had recently. It's so much more efficient. It's about 35 to 40% more efficient, and the reason for that is obviously it's only powering the rear wheels, so you've got a lot less drivetrain loss. Also, the final drive in this car, or the 7th gear, is a lot longer, so when you're on the motorway at 70 miles an hour, you're doing about 1700 RPM, whereas in the R8 V10 Plus, you're doing about 2,500 RPM, which makes a massive difference on long motorway journeys. And I know that people that own these cars, you know, they've got over £100,000 to spend in a car, aren't going to be too fussed about MPG, but that's a massive difference for a car that fundamentally has the same performance and should produce very similar figures, but it doesn't. This is just so much better and so much more relaxing. This with magnetic ride in 7th on a motorway would be brilliant. Really good GT car. Yeah, it's fantastic when you get on roads like this. It really is. Oh yes, brilliant car. There are some negatives with this car, like there are with the R8 V10 Plus. One of them being the seating position. If you are over 6 foot, it is a bit cramped in here, you're sitting too high. There's just something that's not quite right about the driving position. It's not bad, but it's just not right. And I wish it was a bit better, but I'm sure if you're 5'10", 5'11", it would feel pretty good. Other things are the steering wheel, the paddles on this wheel. Now, the R8 V10 Plus has got a slightly nicer wheel. It comes with an exhaust button that you can open and close flaps. It comes with a performance mode button, which is really good. It sort of ramps everything up that bit more. This one doesn't have those two buttons, and it's also missing the longer and nicer paddles. These paddles on here, they're quite offensive in a car that's going to retail at an average of about £125,000. They, to me, look like exactly the same paddles that you get in a Golf GTI. Golf GTI is fine, 25 grand's worth. Yes, they look okay on that car, but in a car that's costing £100,000 more, no, they should at least feel metal, and they're just too small. They're like tiny little buttons. So yeah, not impressed with that. The final sort of dislike that I can find in this car that I talked about with the R8 V10 Plus is the drinks holder. It's in a stupid place, and I hope that the new one is going to resolve all of these issues. Talking of the new one, we all know it's just around the corner, and in fact this is probably going to be one of the last reviews or press reviews of the R8, the current one. Most of the big journalists are over at the moment, I think in Germany or Spain, trying out, testing the brand new R8, which looks amazing. Let's hope they've addressed some of the problems that this car's got. But I really love this car, and I don't know what they're doing second-hand wise, but if they depreciate as quick as the Quattro version, you'll be, you know, picking these up for 70, 80 grand in no time, and whoa, it's a lot of car for that money. And the one big negative that I had on the other car, or the Quattro version, was just how inefficient it was. I was doing 12.5 on the average in that car, which is just silly. It's not fun, even if you got loads of money. It's just, you know, you're going to the petrol station all the time, whereas this thing, I've been averaging about 20, 21 on the overall combined. I've had over 30 on long runs in it, which it's another league. I know I keep going on about it, but I'm really impressed, as you can probably tell. Right then guys, we'll leave it at that. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's been a bit of a gloomy day, so hopefully the lighting's not too bad. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and leave any comments below. I'll leave you with a little bit of a spirited drive down this lovely closed public road, and yeah, I'll see you at the next video. Cheers. And guys, don't forget to take advantage of my 10% off on mega mounts. I go on about these a lot on my channel, but I absolutely love them. There's various different mounts, my favorite being the vent mount, which I'll show you Now, vent mount uses a mega mount sticker on the back of the phone, nice and thin, and then the phone literally just goes on there, doesn't move. You can plug it in, and away you go.